All right. So, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but we have all of these surveys out there and polls happening from different organizations saying that this percentage of traveler wants to travel sustainably and they're going to make the right decisions. But yet, when it comes to actually choosing sustainable travel, we have what they call a say-do gap. So, what do you think is going to actually help move that shift forward and close that gap? Is it psychology? Is it pricing? Is it messaging, like we just talked about? Instead of making the default, what is the shiniest hotel or destination on Instagram, or what's the most cost effective? How do we drive that change?
Well, I definitely think there's something to be gained from understanding the psychology aspect, right? But that requires a lot of data about people to be able to get that right. So you might be able to do that in the US because you have a bit more liberal approach to that. But here in Europe, it's hard to get the kind of data to really understand the psychology of each traveler and then, positioning in the language that they would. So my overall answer is one word, and it's default, right? And I mean that from the industry perspective. It just has to be a default. The traveler shouldn't be, required to sit there and go through a lot of data and choices. Because also, what are they going to choose one certification over another when they don't understand what the certification is about? So make it default, and that's, in my opinion, again, the only way we're going to get this to scale the way we want it to scale.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little contrarian. I love, of course, we want it to be the standard. That's the ideal situation, but we are so far from that. How do we do it in the meantime? Is it not a little bit of the traveler's responsibility to educate themselves and want to do better?
When it comes to travel responsibility, I usually have a lot of things to say about that, but it's more on the behavioral level, right? That don't act like an ass when you're visiting somebody else's city. Behave as you would other people want to behave when they come and visit you in your city. Those things I would place on the traveler's shoulders. But what are you going to do? If you want to get there, are you going to take the train for 50 hours to get to the other side of the world, if it even works? So you got to fly, and the flying is a huge chunk of the emissions if we're going to talk about the environmental side. So the straw, made of bamboo or whatever, is not going to move the needle compared to some of the big carbon budgets items. So I don't know. I think it's just distracting also, because there's a lot of big players that could do better from the industry side. That would totally shift. If we're talking about energy, for example, or things like that, that totally dwarf whatever we do as people. And I know I've had this debate 100 times. Should we just let the travelers have a free pass? Sure, you can do certain things, like be smarter, like we talked about in the absolute beginning of the conversation. Do fewer trips then and make sure you do them better. Yes, there are hacks and stuff like that you can do. But those are also not only tied to sustainability, they're also for your own benefits to get more out of your trips. I personally don't think that framing everything as a gift to the planet is the best motivator.